Reef Pack Mountain operates in the stolen lands of the Bludjak people of the Noongar Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend solidarity and friendship and hope for a future where all are afforded justice, dignity and peace. Always was and always will be Aboriginal land. So officially I'd like to welcome you all to Analog Memories and Digital Daydreams. This has been a bit of a crazy idea of mine for the past few years. So I've got a couple of the boys involved. I pitched to them an idea early February to work under a concept to pitch to them a exhibition. So this is kind of, I'm absolutely stoked and super proud of what the boys have been able to pull off in the past 6 months in such a short period of time to make my vision come to life. And it has definitely become our vision, not just mine, which is a much more important thing, I believe, as an artist. I'd like to hand you over to Paul. He's going to give our introduction for the night. Thank you.
Thanks, Isaac. Yes, so it's a pleasure to be here, and it's been some time since I've addressed a crowd as large as this, which I think is testament to this show, the strength of the show and the strength of the connections and networks that the artists have built. Basically, an exhibition doesn't exist unless people come to the exhibition. I want to say a few words about this tonight. One of the things I want to say is that this is a very significant night. It's a very significant night in the lives of these artists, because it's a big thing, I think, to take your work from being in a private space of the studio into the public realm, and it's a very big thing to put it in front of your peers, your family, your friends, and the community. So it's always a moment of vulnerability. I'm a practicing artist myself, so I know what this is like. So it's a moment of some exhilaration, a sense of vulnerability and joy, but also the worry that it won't come off. So it's a wonderful convergence of all these different forces that push and pull each other. But it has to be thus, because art is a space of vulnerability. Art is a space that is driven by, when it's done well, something that comes from the center of the soul of that person. And I'm really delighted to be here tonight because I absolutely love moments of emergence, because it's a very privileged space when art emerges for the first time into the world. So at that point, I'd just like everyone to give a big round of applause. So you're not passive. So it's great. Now, memory. I think that we could see this show as being about memory. That's one of the things I think it could be seen to be about. We have this idea of our own memories, our own human understandings, our own lives, but we also have digital memory now. And many people have grown up their whole lives with these digital memories, and it has been part of the fabric of themselves, and it is changing the way humanity is in a fundamental manner. How? We're not quite sure, but I would hazard a guess that this show is making a contribution towards that understanding. It's asking questions about technology, and it's asking fundamental questions about the human condition. So I don't think that that's an easy place to be. I think that it is actually negotiating a sense of conflict and shift that goes on between the technologies of the iPhones and the everyday use of technology that we're so much immersed in now. So it's a sort of like a give and take. But I see also a lot of humour around the show. There's a hell of a lot of humour, and it's really good to see that. It's great to see a sense of a kind of a rawness to that. that's that human kickback, that we're not going to be dominated by these machines. There are a lot of scholars who've been speculating about how artificial intelligence will basically take the role of so many things, and we know that it's going to take so many jobs. But I always think I have faith in the human nature to kick back against that, and I think this show is trying to do that. It's kind of giving it a bit of a kick, which I think is true. Now, one thing I want to add to that, so recently I read this incredible article from The Guardian, and they said, and they had it all sort of written down very nicely, but they said the main point they made was there has been more change in the last 20 years for society and culture, for humanity worldwide, than in the last 200 years. So if you're feeling a bit tired now, there's a reason for it. Again, I think these artists are addressing these ideas about technology in complex ways. Now, one of the other things that I'm interested in with this show is that there's also a convergence of different ways of making work. So, for example, graffiti art we're used to seeing in the streets. I personally really enjoy graffiti art because you'll often find it in unexpected places. Graffiti art will often be in a place like an alleyway that you might not necessarily go to after certain hours. It's a kind of a subterranean way of expressing oneself. So I think it's also a significant moment that graffiti, a lot of these artists are graffiti artists, and their art has come into this realm, which is traditionally seen in the art world as the white cube. Now, the white cube is this idea that now that it's in this kind of visual space, it's sort of sanctioned, and you are all kind of part of this white cube space. It's like you've all come to this particular kind of space to give quiet reflection to something, which is the sort of thing that we might associate with churches, but I often think that galleries are like churches because it is a space we can give time to contemplation. So I think that the show doesn't exist without your own interaction, without your own questioning. So Jack Richards and Jordan Bottolo, they basically definitely come out from the street, and we get to see their work hitting their strides across these walls. Don Byrne, I'm interested to learn that he works with earth to make his landscapes of place. So when we're looking at these images, they're actually made from the earth that we would be looking at. So they're coming from source from Newman and Pilbara, and I think this gives a certain kind of authentic quality to the work when you're looking at it. You're not just looking at the image, but you're looking at the essence of something that is put forward. Don is the grandfather of Isaac, and they've also done some kind of witty works. I'm just looking at them. Kind of wonderful tongue-in-cheek explorations that are happening next door. Now, both of the artists are interested in drones and travel restrictions and the broadband rollout. Conor McGrath, he makes work which is close to something that I'm interested in myself, about the human condition. And the human condition is this kind of, like there's this sense that we're frail creatures and so on. But there's also a sense that we can deal with a lot. I think that we can actually resist and we can thrive in difficult circumstances as well. So it's always a complex relationship. Isaac Huggins makes work which comments also on human behaviours. And his work is all around us here. Often the faces are missing, and I think that could stand for many things. One thing you can say, it's about the idea of censorship, taking things away. We're in a society where we're under immense surveillance, and there's many comments about surveillance around the room. But it could also be, the face missing could also mean that it could be a spot for you to put yourselves into those works. So you could become part of that. So lastly, I'd like to close with a few things. So in many ways, I think this show is also about communication. There can be nothing more important than communication. We have so many forms of communication now with iPhones and the internet and so on. But I think that this show reaffirms the need for a moment like this, where humans come together and interact, and spontaneous things can happen, and also silence can happen, and one can actually have a silent conversation, which is deep and meaningful, which you definitely can't do on Zoom. I know I tried. Okay, so I'm bringing this show over to you, into your hands. As I say, this is a significant moment because now these artists move from being artists who've kept things hidden, if you like. They've moved into the public, you're the public, and your minds and your hearts will now interact with this work and take it beyond this. So I would just like to commend the artists, all the artists concerned, fabulous show, congratulate all the artists. Now I'm asking for your participation again, for a big round of applause and